Hey, we're on a 2001 Honda Civic, and the owner of this car is going to give this car to his niece, and he wants to make sure that she can charge her phone up. So basically, he's having me just kind of look over this car, make sure everything's okay, and replace whatever it needs. It needs wiper blades for one. It needs a couple other little things, but he also wanted to make sure that she could charge her phone, and the cigarette lighter doesn't work. So we're going to go ahead and replace that, but what we're going to replace it with is this little USB port. So it's got two USB ports, and we're going to show you how easy it is to go ahead and put one of these in. Now, all cars will be different. This car has got, of course, it's already got a 12-volt cigarette lighter jack that's broken, and it looks like this whole little insert right here will pop out of here, and that's what I'm hoping. So depending on where you would want to put yours, you may have to cut a hole, and I may even have to enlarge this hole. Just by eyeballing it, it looks like I'm going to have to, because this looks a little bit bigger in diameter than what this is. But we'll see. First step is to see if we can get this out of here. And we're going to go from there. And like I say, on yours, I mean, you could even put it down here on the console somewhere if you wanted to. This car doesn't have a whole lot of room down here to put it there, but if I mean, all you're looking for is a blank place on your dash somewhere to install this. You'd want to make sure that there's plenty of room behind the dash, for whenever you put this in, and you'd have to cut a hole, whatever size this is. It looks about maybe a little over 1 inch. You'd want to measure it, get a hole saw or a grinder. You could use a little Dremel tool, to just waller you out a hole. You wouldn't have to be real accurate. You see how big of a flange is on this. So as long as you're not bigger than the outer diameter of the face here, you'd be all right. The closer to this, the better, obviously, but it's not that critical. They give you plenty of room here to where you could be a little bit off. So let's see if we can pop this out. Let me get this camera set up somehow, and we're going to make this happen. Okay, so I've just got a little plastic trim tool here, and we're going to see if we can pop this out of here. Okay, that's exactly what you want. Get that connector off. Now, this should already be fused, this jack. There's already going to be a fuse for this, so I am not going to, this has got an inline fuse. If you're going to run this directly to a source that's not fused, you're going to want to make sure that this inline fuse is installed in here. I'm not going to do that. The reason is because if this inline fuse does blow, you want to make sure you can get access to this. Now, in this case, it's easy enough to pop this off. The girl that's going to be driving this may not know how to do that. Nobody will probably even know that there's an inline fuse in here. But if you're using the factory fuse, it would be easy for them to check all those. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and crimp new connectors onto these wires. First, I want to check, make sure we got power and ground like we're going to have, and then I'm going to crimp new spade connectors onto these wires. Now, this probably is polarity sensitive, meaning this black wire has got to be ground, this red one's got to be power. This is a DC USB volt jack. So make sure that these are hooked up correctly. So let me get a test light. Let's verify that this is good, and we'll go from there. Okay, key is on. just gonna go here in front, I guess. Okay, we do have power, so that's good. Turn the key off just to make sure that this doesn't have power. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rubber boots off of these connectors here. And I've got a couple different connectors depending on gauge of wire that we got here. Yeah, perfect. Of course, you don't want to forget your boot. Hopefully that will slide up. I think we'll be able to get it. And these wouldn't have to be insulated, meaning these boots, I wouldn't necessarily have to use these boots, but since they were on the wires anyway, I figured may as well utilize them since I wasn't going to use the ones that it came with. This one must be a little bit bigger. Well, guess that boot fell off, didn't it? I didn't even see it. Alright, let's try this thing out. There is a positive and a negative marked on this. And I think this thing's got a, yeah, it's got a little readout too. So that's what it's going to look like. All we got to do is now is get it installed in the panel. So we're going to do that over here. There we go. Alright, so there's that piece. So now this piece should pop right out of there. Okay, well that's definitely close. Now I could file that, but I think what I'm going to use is just the Dremel. Make sure that's pretty straight. Then we're just going to snug it up just a little. Make sure that it doesn't accidentally turn or anything. Alright. There's the old stuff. My new little pry bar that I ordered. Thing worked great. Okay, remember, negative, positive. Perfect. Now, if this was mine, I'd probably just leave this little rubber deal off. That's going to get in the way more than anything. But since it came with it, I'll let them decide if they want to rip it off or not. So, that's how easy it can be. Not to say that's how easy it'll be for all of them, but that's how easy it can be to install one of these. Now, remember, Now I cut the inline, no I didn't cut it, but I didn't install the inline fuse. There's a fuse in this part here. If you're not going to wire this to a known fused source, make sure you leave that in. You don't want live directly wired wires running behind your dash. If they short, I've literally seen cars burn to the ground because they wired in a radio or whatever. They didn't use a fuse. That wire shorted out. That wire will become the fuse, but only after it turns cherry red, and anything it's laying up against is going to, if it's flammable, is going to catch on fire. And there's plenty of stuff behind the dash that will burn. So make sure you don't become one of those people. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show. I'll put a link to this in the description where I bought this from. If you need a USB port and you want a little digital voltmeter, I think this was only like $15 or something. So I'll put a link to it. You guys take care.